The story begins when a SSS-rank hunter Junwoo Kim returned from a dungeon expedition with his team, finding themselves surrounded by a swarm of reporters. They bombarded him with questions about rumors circulating an invitation from the International Hunters Association, something he had not previously disclosed. Observing disappointment on their faces, Junwoo made a strategic decision to shift the focus, emphasizing the paramount importance of ensuring the safety of citizens. However, a citizen brings up an undisclosed incident involving Junwoo assaulting a cleaning staff member. The situation escalates as the individual reveals specific details, triggering chaos among the reporters. Enraged, Junwoo decides to ignore the rumor and walks away. Simultaneously, the association's higher-ups convene an emergency meeting to address the controversy. Meanwhile, as Junwoo heads home, he reads online articles about himself. The incident filled him with rage, making him tremble, and he immediately turned to his secretary, demanding to know the identity of the kid. Ms. Lee, the secretary, reassured him that the individual was insignificant, attempting to divert the conversation. However, Junwoo remained persistent in discussing the incident. His curiosity intensified as he wondered how the information had leaked, especially since he had explicitly instructed his secretary to ensure it remained confidential. The secretary, Ms. Lee, suggested that Junwoo Kim take a vacation leave and advised him to maintain a low profile. She explained that numerous testimonies were pouring in regarding him. However, Junwoo Kim remained persistent in his determination to eliminate anyone who stood in his way. Ms. Lee urged Junwoo Kim not to exacerbate the situation, assuring him that the higher-ups had not discussed removing him from the association since the chairman's attention was fixated on the offer. Reflecting on the recent events, he couldn't shake the feeling that all of his achievements and years of hard work had been rendered meaningless in just a moment. Amidst the silence, Ms. Lee broke the silence by questioning Junwoo about his actions towards Juntae Park, the cleaning staff. Junwoo responded, explaining that Juntae had grabbed his collar first. When Ms. Lee posed another question, Junwoo skillfully shifted the topic, instructing his secretary to bring Juntae Park to him upon his return. Midway through their conversation, they narrowly escaped being hit by a truck. Junwoo Kim, in a fit of anger, chose to utilize his time control skill to avert the accident. However, fueled by his rage, he resolved to confront the truck driver outside. Suddenly, he found himself restrained by an anti-superpower seizure device. Despite his attempts to break free, his efforts proved futile. The truck abruptly veered towards him, colliding with another truck. A barrage of gunfire followed, but much to everyone's surprise, he skillfully dodged each bullet unscathed. At that moment, Junwoo Kim realized that it was an ambush orchestrated for supernatural beings like himself. Fueled by this revelation, he resolved to eliminate every individual involved in the orchestrated incident. Filled with arrogance, he believed that an ordinary hunter would have perished instantly, contrasting his own experiences of slaying thousands of monsters in the dungeon, causing him to dismiss the threat with a laugh. However, just as he felt on the verge of victory, he spotted a blue iron muzzle of a superpower suppressor, taking aim at his head, the Titan. Recognizing the imminent danger, he understood the peril he faced. Yet, before he could evade the threat, he was shot to death, the system confirming his demise. Upon his demise, he found himself transported back a decade in time, unlocking a newfound skill, karma. His post-revival journey was now shaped by the consequences of his actions in his previous life. As the system began assigning his new career, he woke up disoriented. Abruptly, a voice announced an urgent need to hasten, with only 45 minutes allocated for cleanup. His team leader contacted him, instructing a swift collection of corpses. It dawned on him that he had been assigned to the dungeon cleaning staff. While unconscious, flashbacks inundated his mind, leading him to dismiss them as mere dream fragments. As he woke up, a headache and body soreness greeted him. Opening his eyes, astonishment seized him. Contrary to his expectations, he wasn't in his room. He found himself in a flat no bigger than a pigsty, even smaller than his bathroom. It couldn't have been Ms. Lee's house either. She wouldn't allow him inside, even if the world were ending. Wondering about his location, a system appeared, confirming his death. The system also indicated that his death had unlocked a hidden skill called karma. Junwoo dismissed the notion that he was dead after reading the system's message. However, upon seeing his reflection in a mirror, he realized it was indeed him, but from 10 years prior, precisely, Junwoo Kim at the age of 28. Intrigued, he chose to open the system, curious about the revelations that might unfold. The abrupt appearance of the system interface shattered any hope that this was just a bad dream, and he confronted the harsh reality before him. The system also served as a reminder of his death and that he had been assigned to a new career with his new skill. The moment the system assigned him to his new career, he felt the weight of all his years of hard work dissipate into thin air. Once a promising, aspiring hunter with everyone's eyes on him, now relegated to the role of dungeon cleaner. He couldn't believe that the once almighty Junwoo Kim was now simply a dungeon cleaner. While perusing the conditions necessary to deactivate the karma, which entails ascending to the position of Secretary General of the International Superpower Association within 5 years, he realized that success would grant him the opportunity to return to his former life. Initially, he dismissed the notion, appearing to surrender. The International Superpower Association, a global entity governing all associations worldwide, bestows upon its Secretary General greater authority than even the President of the United States, making it the most influential position globally. Despite being the world's first SSS-ranking hunter, he deemed achieving such a position impossible. Nevertheless, after pondering for a moment, he found renewed hope and confidence, firmly believing that becoming a hunter provided him with the best chance. Confident in his abilities, he anticipated swiftly reaching SSS rank. However, upon inspecting his skills, he discovered they were all locked. Suddenly, the system congratulated him, granting a new skill. Without dwelling on it too much, he smiled bitterly, grateful for at least one skill. The newly unlocked passive skill was OCD, its effect compelling him to clean. Uncertain of his next move, he reclined on his bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, accepting the reality that he had been thrust 10 years back into the past after his death, awakening as a dungeon cleaner. All his hunter skills were locked, and his achievements had vanished into thin air. Contemplating whether he should accept the cleaning job, Junwoo also grapples with the impact on his dignity as an SSS ranker. However, before making any decisions, he resolves to uncover the identity of his killer, certain they were a skilled individual. Suddenly, an unknown number interrupted his thoughts. It was his supposed boss, Park, inquiring about his presence at work. While Junwoo questioned the existence of a boss named Park, his employer reminded him that he was already an hour late. Junwoo's surprise deepened as his boss mentioned the difficulty of the previous dungeon, leading him to realize that his karma had assigned him the role of a dungeon cleaner. Acknowledging the challenge of the previous assignment, his boss assured Junwoo that today's task would be less demanding. Meanwhile, the other two cleaners grew irritated, having waited for Junwoo for so long and considering him useless to their team. Infuriated by the cleaners' disdainful remarks, Junwoo felt his temper flare. However, their boss swiftly intervened, reprimanding the cleaners and instructing them to be quiet, expressing confidence that Junwoo likely had a valid reason for his delay. Advising Junwoo to take it easy for the day but to provide advance notice in the future, the boss assured him that he could be reached at the number provided, to save as Juntae Park. Upon hearing his boss's full name, Junwoo experienced a sudden change of heart and promptly informed his boss that he was on his way to work. While en route to work, Junwoo was shocked to discover he lacked suitable attire and found no car waiting for him outside. Left with no alternative, he reluctantly hailed a cab, only to realize he had not a single penny in his wallet. The notion of the esteemed Junwoo Kim riding a bus greatly agitated him. Such a scenario was beyond his imagination in his previous life. This realization hinted at a complete upheaval of his relationships in this new reality, including the absence of any altercation with Juntae Park. Despite his current lack of connection with Juntae Park, Junwoo harbored the conviction that if Park was indeed his assailant, it would lead to a different narrative. He felt a compelling need for an explanation regarding his death. The revelation that the accident was orchestrated to impede him, coupled with the use of an anti-superpower seizure device to incapacitate his skills, added another layer of intrigue. Moreover, the weapon involved was no ordinary firearm. It was the Titan, a superpower suppressor designed specifically for subduing monsters. This top-tier weapon boasted exceptional technology and commanded an exorbitant price tag, far beyond the capabilities of a mere dungeon cleaner like Juntae Park. Junwoo reasoned that given Juntae's animosity towards him, he might have enlisted the services of a professional to carry out the attack, considering the Titan's complexity. Additionally, Junwoo speculated that Juntae's son harbored a deep-seated resentment toward him. He couldn't help but feel incredulous at the notion that a mere nudge could be labeled as assault. Recalling the incident, Juntae confronted Junwoo, mentioning that he had heard about Junwoo's suggestion to downsize the cleaning team. Juntae emphasized the team's current struggle with staffing shortages, expressing concern about the potential repercussions of implementing cutbacks. Junwoo, puzzled by Juntae's direct approach, questioned why he was being informed about it when he lacked any authority over the matter and had merely offered a suggestion. Juntae, however, was well aware of Junu's considerable influence within the association, recognizing that Junu's opinion carried significant weight. Bowing slightly, Juntae pleaded with Junu, urging him to reconsider the proposed cutbacks and emphasizing the association's dependency on him. Junu elaborated on the association's dire financial situation, mentioning that they had announced plans to reduce the salaries of top hunters. Highlighting the association's primary objective of safeguarding citizens from dungeons and monsters, Junu emphasized the crucial role played by hunters like himself in fulfilling that mission. In light of these circumstances, the association saw no alternative but to consider cutbacks, viewing the cleaners' contributions as relatively minor in comparison. Juntae gently reminded Junu of his own assertion regarding the association's priority of protecting citizens. With a pleading tone, Juntae implored Junu to reconsider his stance, emphasizing that cleaners, too, were citizens deserving of consideration and support. Feeling irked by the situation, Junu approached Juntae and asserted that individuals like him ought to express gratitude to hunters, as they didn't face life-threatening situations like hunters did. Instead, they merely earned a living by cleaning up the aftermath without truly understanding the risks involved. Junu criticized them for continuously demanding more despite making easy money, labeling them as parasites. Hearing Junu's blunt assessment, Juntae became enraged and seized Junu's collar. In response, Junu forcefully pushed Juntae, causing him to collide with the wall. Returning to the present, Junu reached his destination and observed the yellow-level dungeon, recognizing it as one of the higher-risk levels. Junu recognized the boss in this yellow-level dungeon as the Foxtrot Centipede. Realization dawned upon him. He had indeed traveled 10 years back in time. Shortly after this realization, Junu noticed Juntae approaching him, calling out and waving. Junu's gaze fell upon Juntae, who was laughing heartily. A surge of hard feelings washed over Junu as he contemplated revenge. Junu was greeted warmly by his boss, who affectionately referred to him as son, despite Junu's lingering doubts about him. Despite harboring reservations, Junu chose to believe that Mr. Park wasn't someone who could have orchestrated his demise in his past life. In contrast, Mr. Park extended a warm welcome to Junu, treating him like a son and introducing him to his coworkers. However, Junu's reception from his colleagues was less than favorable, given his tardiness and disruptive behavior, which had disrupted the cleaning team's schedule. Frustrated by the delay, his teammates expressed their discontent towards him. Recognizing Junu's need for guidance, Mr. Park offered assistance. Intrigued by his new role, Junu inquired about the responsibilities of dungeon cleaners, seeking to understand the nature of their work. The Korea Association of Supernatural Ability Management, also referred to simply as the Association, comprises 4 distinct teams. The Command and Control Team is responsible for monitoring the opening of dungeons and collecting relevant information. The Hunter Support Team is tasked with producing the requisite weapons and items to aid in the overall conquests. The Strategy and Operation Team consists of hunters who engage in combat with and eliminate monsters within the dungeons. Lastly, there's the Cleaning Team, a facet that Junu had little knowledge about. As Junu observed the apparent busyness of everyone around him, Mr. Park noticed Junu veering off in a different direction and inquired about his destination. Junu, under the impression they were heading to the boss's room, pointed out a route he believed led there. However, his assertion was met with confusion from the others, who expressed their lack of time for such detours and suggested Junu speak up if he wasn't willing to cooperate. Sang-hyuk then handed Junu a dungeon map from the control team, confident in its accuracy as it was based on conquests carried out by previous hunters. Despite their assurance, Junu disagreed with the map's accuracy and indicated the correct direction. When Mr. Park questioned Junu's certainty, Junu contemplated revealing that he had been involved in the conquest himself. However, he ultimately decided against it, anticipating disbelief from the others and opting instead to simply follow their lead. Unbeknownst to Junu, his reluctance to disclose his past led the others to perceive him as unwell or peculiar. As they made their way, Mr. Park took the opportunity to enlighten Junu about the remaining time until the dungeon's closure. Junu suddenly had an epiphany. The impending closure was the reason for the urgency. He learned that all dungeons inevitably collapsed after each conquest, typically within 2 hours. While this was of little concern to hunters who departed the site following the conquest, it held significant importance for the cleaning team, as their duties commenced immediately afterward. Junu voiced his curiosity regarding the purpose of cleaning a dungeon that would eventually vanish anyway. In response, Mr. Park clarified that a subjugated dungeon didn't simply disappear. Rather, it entered a resting phase until a new monster claimed it. He explained that hunters could lose their way in the labyrinthine dungeons, and the gas emitted by decomposing monster carcasses posed a fatal threat to humans. The greater the number of carcasses, the higher the risk for hunters. Mr. Park elaborated on the cleaning team's crucial role, emphasizing their responsibility to ensure the safety of hunters during conquests. Their primary task involved cleaning up after monster carcasses and disposing of any hazardous byproducts within the dungeons, thus enabling hunters to focus solely on their mission. Additionally, he mentioned the possibility of rescuing any hunters inadvertently left behind, although such occurrences had never transpired before. Upon reaching what they believed to be the boss's location, the team was taken aback to find nothing there, prompting them to realize that Junu had been aware of the discrepancy all along. As they regrouped with their boss, several teammates proposed different suggestions, such as halting their work due to the limited time available for cleaning. However, Mr. Park remained resolute in his determination to complete the task before the dungeon's inevitable disappearance. After deliberation, the team reached a consensus and agreed on a course of action. Aware of the potential consequences of failing to complete their task in time, Junu felt a surge of anger, questioning the wisdom of risking their lives for a cleaning duty. Mr. Park teasingly remarked on Junu's frustration, while others suggested he was free to leave if he wished, as they never expected much from him anyway. Reflecting on his 15 years as a hunter without a single conquest failure, Junu bristled at the notion of being looked down upon by mere cleaners. Instead of departing, he proposed taking the lead, confident in his knowledge of a small path within the room. Despite skepticism from Sanghyuk, Junu insisted, raising his voice to emphasize the urgency of the situation. He briefed the team on the distance to the boss's room, suggesting they could make it within 5 minutes if they ran. This time, Junu asserted his intention to lead, informing the team that if anyone had complaints, they were free to leave. Resolutely, they all followed Junu as they sprinted towards the boss's room. Upon reaching their destination, they encountered the foxtrot centipede, a monstrous creature towering over 10 meters in size. Sanghyuk, acknowledging Junu's correctness regarding the boss's room, suggested they immediately begin dismantling the creature. However, Junu cautioned against approaching the monster. Suddenly, the creature stirred, awakening from what they believed to be subjugation. The revelation left his teammates frozen, stunned to realize that the creature was still very much alive. After a brief moment of agitation, the monster began to calm down, leading Junu to speculate that it had experienced rigor mortis. Frustrated by what he perceived as the strategy and operation team's negligence, Junu felt a surge of irritation. Suddenly, Weijiang advised Junu to step back, assuming his hesitation stemmed from his first encounter with a boss monster. Feeling insulted, Junu seized the knife from Weijiang's hand, determined to prove his competence. As they began dismantling, Junu instructed them to watch and learn, emphasizing safety and efficiency. His clear and precise guidance left his team in awe. Sanghyuk speculated that Mr. Park might have shared insider information with Junu to boost his confidence, but Mr. Park denied it. As Sanghyuk pondered how a rookie cleaner could possess such expertise, Mr. Park remained confident that the information wasn't in the control team's file, leaving Sanghyuk to wonder where Junu had acquired his knowledge. They commenced their cleaning, and under Junu's guidance, they efficiently finished their work before the dungeon's demise. Junu, in turn, unlocked and gained new skills, feeling satisfied after the successful operation. As they completed their tasks, the team praised Junu for his exceptional work, acknowledging that he made their job easier. As they prepared to leave the dungeon, Junu noticed a leak of blood in his suit, making it difficult for him to move. Concerned, his teammates informed their leader, Mr. Park. Despite Junu's attempt to use his melting skill, it was skill-locked. Mr. Park suggested pulling him out, but the attempt failed, and time was running out. Mr. Park proposed removing Junu's hazmat suit, despite the high gas levels being dangerous. Junu, amazed by their teamwork, expected to be left behind but was surprised when his teammates stayed. Mr. Park ordered them to leave and save themselves, despite their worries. As they exited, they thought Junu and Mr. Park were left behind, but to their surprise, they were all saved just in the nick of time. Upon realizing the close call with losing his life, Junu took a moment to reflect. Mr. Park, acknowledging the mishap, quickly checked up on Junu and apologized for the unexpected turn during their first cleanup task. Perplexed by Mr. Park referring to it as their first task, Junu inquired further. Openly, Mr. Park explained that each team is responsible for cleaning 3.3 dungeons daily, and on less fortunate days, they might have to clean up to 5 dungeons due to being short-staffed. The recent incident was one such unlucky day. After a long day of work, the team concluded it with a round of drinks. Mr. Park invited Junu to join them and asked about his food preferences. As Junu was about to share his food choice, Mr. Park interrupted him, persuading him not to join them for a drink. Upon reaching home, Junu continued to contemplate whether Mr. Park had been involved in his past demise. He considered various possibilities, jotting down potential suspects and expanding his list of individuals who might have had a motive against him. Faced with the difficulty of identifying his assailant in the current realm, he eventually gave up on the pursuit and decided to focus on deactivating the karma skill. Upon checking his skills, he was surprised to find that all the skills had requirements connected to the cleaning team, adding to the mystery surrounding his circumstances. Fueled by anger, he impulsively threw up the trash, only to find himself surrounded by garbage. Unexpectedly, his OCD passive skill kicked in, and his room was cleaned in no time. Additionally, a new skill was unlocked, seemingly as a result of him showing up to work. A week into his tenure with the cleaning team, Junu still found himself struggling to adapt to his new lifestyle. He couldn't help but ponder why he couldn't unlock new skills, particularly since some of his existing skills were better suited for battle rather than cleaning duties. Some skills seemed to have conditions attached to them, while others inexplicably seemed tied to his role within the cleaning team, a responsibility he reluctantly accepted but hadn't fully embraced. Lost in thought on his way to work, Junu contemplated potential actions that could benefit both himself and the association, hoping to trigger the unlocking of his skills and prevent being indefinitely trapped in his current state. However, his preoccupation caused him to miss his stop, resulting in yet another late arrival. Upon reaching work, Junu noticed only 2 of his colleagues waiting at the dungeon entrance, despite being 10 minutes behind schedule. Perplexed by the delay, Junu wondered why they hadn't started working yet. Sanghyuk's candid response and offer of coffee left Junu both questioning and confused, as Sanghyuk's demeanor toward him seemed to have shifted slightly. Sensing an opening, Junu took the opportunity to inquire about the cause of the delay in the cleaning process. Sanghyuk explained that the hunters had not yet completed their conquest, prompting Junu to cast his gaze upon the dungeon. As he observed it, he failed to recognize the dungeon and noted to himself that its level was blue, suggesting that it shouldn't be too difficult to conquer. Enduring 30 minutes of waiting tested Junu's patience to its limits, and he began to mutter to himself in frustration. As he grumbled, his colleagues began to notice the returning hunters from the dungeon, signaling the completion of their conquest. Junu, unimpressed, derogatorily referred to them as amateurs. However, his attention was swiftly diverted when he recognized a familiar face among the group, Minju Kim, a junior hunter from his past life with whom he had a strained relationship. Their eyes locked, and Minju was the first to approach Junu, initiating conversation. Despite Junu's attempt to mask it, his frustration was evident from the frown on his face. While he had contemplated reconnecting with his old teammates, he hadn't anticipated encountering Minju, further complicating the situation. As So-yeon noticed Junu staring blankly at Minju, she inquired if they knew each other, bluntly suggesting they might be exes. Junu, infuriated by the implication, was on the brink of exploding when their boss intervened, asking what was happening. His colleagues teased him about Minju, further stoking his rage. Junu swiftly changed the subject, and they proceeded to work. When his boss inquired if Junu had researched the dungeon, Junu confidently responded that all he knew was that the boss was a humanoid monster. During the week, Junu's colleagues bombarded him with questions about dungeons and monsters, often making flimsy excuses. During the briefing, their team leader instructed Junu to accompany him, and they encountered the humanoid monster, Vega. Junu advised against dismantling the corpse. While watching the corpse Junu feels something was off and remembered that Vega was not particularly a threatening monster as long as the hunters could dodge his skill, and asked himself why did Minju struggled in killing her. He also recalled that during that time, Minju was a B-rank hunter, indicating considerable power. Had she not been injured, she might have advanced to an S-rank. Junu remembered her swift swordsmanship despite her stubbornness, signifying her high skill level. Given her prowess, he doubted she would struggle against a blue-level boss. However, His boss interrupted his thoughts, signaling the start of work. Junwoo shrugged off his musings, deciding to focus on the task at hand, as Minju was now a stranger to him. However, amidst his thoughts, Junwoo noticed the way the wounds were inflicted and pondered if Minju was somehow involved. At 5 a.m., they were scheduled to clean a blue-level dungeon, but Junwoo couldn't help but murmur, feeling the weight of their 3 consecutive days of bad luck. His colleagues followed suit, but their boss promptly intervened. When the hunters emerged from the dungeon, Junwoo noticed Minju Kim again, this time appearing to suffer from back pain. Despite his initial reluctance to look or get involved, Junwoo couldn't shake off his concern. He debated internally whether to approach Minju about it or simply move on, but his conscience gnawed at him, reminding him of what had happened to Minju when she was on his team and the main reason for her anger toward him. Driven by his conscience, Junwoo decided to approach Minju and offer her advice. He suggested strengthening her left grip, explaining his observation and the potential consequences of relying solely on her right hand. Although he imparted this lesson with good intentions, he received only a terse response from Minju. Feeling ashamed, Junwoo returned to his work, urging Minju to get checked for her back pain. Despite initially being furious, Minju ultimately decided to heed the advice. At the doctor's office, Minju learned about her condition and recalled the words of the mere cleaner who had advised her earlier. Hearing the same advice from 2 different people left her feeling unsettled and somewhat unnerved. The following day, as the cleaning team completed their duties, Sang-hyuk teased Junwoo about Minju. To Junwoo's surprise, Minju appeared, seeking him out unexpectedly. Junwoo found himself caught off guard by her presence, not expecting to see her again so soon.